Whenever people talk about investing, the first question is usually some variation of, should I buy Apple? Do I put everything in the S&P 500? Is it time to gamble on crypto? But jumping straight to thinking about what you should buy is a mistake. It leaves you entirely without direction. Before you invest a single dollar, there is one question you have to answer. Exactly when do you need this cash back in your hands? Investing without knowing your timeline is like packing a heavy winter coat for a trip without checking if you're going to Alaska or the Bahamas. If you put cash you need for rent next month into the stock market, you could lose 20% of it overnight. Your strategy starts with a calendar. Matching your capital to a specific window of time is the prerequisite for everything else you do with your money. Let's start with the ultra short term. You need this money in less than 30 days. Think next month's rent, a credit card bill, or your emergency fund. Most people leave this cash sitting in a traditional checking or savings account. That is the dead money trap. Major banks still pay close to 0.01% interest on these accounts. This chart shows how inflation quietly destroys that cash. On the left, a near zero return is eclipsed by rising costs, meaning your money buys less every day. But on the right, a 5% yield keeps you ahead of that curve. For a 30-day window, you need absolute safety and instant access. Your tools here are high-yield savings accounts or money market funds. They yield around 5%, they are FDIC insured up to $250,000, and you can pull your cash in a day without penalties. But what if your timeline is a little further out, say 3 to 6 months? You're saving for a vacation or a car down payment later this year. For this window, look at short-term certificates of deposit, or U.S. Treasury bills. T-bills are debt issued by the government. The interest you earn on them is exempt from state and local taxes, which saves you real money if you live in a high-tax state. If your timeline is under 6 months, the goal is protecting your principal from inflation and taxes. You aren't trying to strike it rich here. You're trying to keep what you have. Now we enter the most dangerous trap for everyday investors, the 1 to 2 year window. This is the timeline for a house down payment or a wedding fund. It's common to look at 2 years and think it feels like plenty of time to safely put that cash into an index fund so it grows a bit faster. But market recoveries don't follow a set schedule. Some crashes bounce back in a matter of months, like the steep drop we saw during the 2020 lockdowns. Other downturns, like 2008, took years to fully recover. If a dip hits 18 months from now, your house fund could shrink right when you're preparing to sign the closing paperwork. To secure cash for a 1 to 2 year goal, stick to fixed rates. Use 1 to 2 year treasury notes or short-term investment-grade corporate bond funds, which pay slightly more than government bonds while keeping your principal highly protected. 2 years feels long to us, but in market cycles, it is dangerously short. You need guaranteed fixed income here to make sure your cash is actually there when your goal arrives. Finally, we reach the 5+ year horizon. This is the territory for retirement, a child's college fund, or building generational wealth. Here, the rules flip. If you keep this money parked in cash or short-term T-bills for decades, you are guaranteeing a loss of purchasing power as inflation compounds against you. Over a long enough timeline, the daily noise of the market fades, and the historical trend of economic growth starts to do the heavy lifting. This chart plots nearly a century of S&P 500 data. If we isolate every rolling 20-year period in that history, every single one ended in the green, even after inflation. This turns volatility from a threat into the very force that compounds your wealth. The ideal tools for this era are broad market index funds, ETFs, and growth stocks. You accept the short-term fluctuations in exchange for that historical upward trajectory. When you don't need your money for a decade or more, time acts as a shield. It renders short-term market crashes irrelevant to your final destination. Let's lock this framework in. Under a month, high-yield savings. A few months out, T-bills. 1 to 2 years, use bonds. 5 years or more, that is the time for stocks and index funds. Stop letting your short-term money take long-term risks, and stop letting your long-term money sit idle in a basic savings account. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, what is your biggest financial goal right now, and what is your timeline for reaching it? Taking deliberate control of your timeline is how you take control of your money. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.